You're standing on a sun-drenched lot. It's 1950, and you're looking at 2 tons of polished steel and shimmering chrome. To you, this isn't a miracle. It isn't a luxury. It's just a Tuesday. You've been working at the local mill for about 6 months. You've got a wife, a toddler at home, and a small house in a new suburb. And today, you're doing something that most people under 30 today would find physically impossible. You're buying a brand new Chevrolet Style Line in cash. No credit check, no 7-year predatory loan, no cosigner. The sticker price on the glass says $1,400. You pull a roll of bills out of your pocket, the result of half a year of honest labor, and you drive away. Think about that for a second. In the modern world, the average new car price has officially crossed $48,000. To buy that same level of freedom today, you don't need a job, you need a miracle. You need a decade of debt, interest rates that eat your savings alive, and a career that consumes every waking hour just to keep the repo man at bay. How did we get here? How did a machine that cost 6 months of an average salary turn into a financial cage that costs 2 full years of your life? Tonight, we're going back to the era of the open road to see how a generation of Americans lived when a new car was just a standard part of being alive. To understand why everyone had a new car back then, you have to look at the math of freedom. In 1950, the median family income was roughly $3,300 a year. Now look at the sticker price of a Ford Deluxe or a Plymouth Special. It's at right around $1,500. Do the math, because this is the part that breaks the modern brain. A brand new, heavy-duty, steel-bodied car cost less than half of what the average family earned in a single year. Today, that ratio has been completely shattered. With the average income at $75,000 and cars at nearly $50,000, you are spending 65% of your annual gross pay just to get to work, and that's before the bank adds their pound of flesh and interest. In those days, you didn't finance your life, you owned it. When you sat behind that massive, thin-rimmed steering wheel, you weren't driving the bank's car. You weren't a subscriber to a mobility service. You were the king of your own destiny. The car was an asset, a piece of property, something that belonged to you, free and clear. But the purchase price was only the beginning of the dream. Imagine pulling into a Texaco station. The bell dings as you roll over the cord. Before you can even put the car in park, an attendant in a crisp uniform is at your window. Gas is 27 cents a gallon. For $5, you could fill a massive tank, get your oil checked, have your windshield scrubbed, and still have enough change left over for a burger and a milkshake at the diner next door. Fuel wasn't a monthly expense you had to budget for. It was as cheap as water. You didn't check an app for the lowest price, you just drove until you saw a sign you liked. And maintenance? These cars were built to be permanent. Open the hood of a 1950 Buick and you'll find something shocking. Space. You could see the ground. You could reach the spark plugs. There were no sensors, no black box computers, no proprietary software designed to lock you out of your own machine. If your car made a strange noise on a Sunday afternoon, you didn't call a tow truck, you grabbed a wrench, you spent an hour in the driveway, and you fixed it yourself. Ownership meant independence. You weren't just buying a vehicle, you were buying the freedom to go anywhere for almost nothing. This extreme affordability, this accidental luxury created the very soul of the American 20th century. The drive-in movie, the neon-lit diners, the massive highway system stretching toward the horizon. They all existed because the barrier to entry was so low. The car was an extension of the house. It was common for families to pile into the back seat on a weekend just to drive. Not to go to the store, not to commute, but simply to explore, because they could afford to. It was the symbol of a middle class that was winning. If you were a plumber, a teacher, or a mechanic, you could afford the same shimmering chrome as the manager of the local bank. The gap between the elite and the average was at its narrowest point in history. Everyone drove the same roads in the same beautiful machines. But as we look at those vintage photos of shimmering parking lots, we have to ask the question that keeps us up at night. What happened to that fair trade? Why did cars become plastic, impossibly complicated, and dangerously expensive? Did the machines get 40 times better, or did our money just get 40 times weaker? Back then, a car was a tool for freedom. Today, for many, it's a rolling cage of debt. And the shift didn't happen by accident. The moment the car became a machine and became a financial instrument was the moment the math of freedom broke. In the 1950s, a car was steel, glass, and rubber. You bought it, you used it, and eventually you sold it. But as the decades rolled on, the sticker price started to outpace the average paycheck. By the 1970s, the gap was widening, and instead of the prices coming down, the system offered a solution. They didn't make the cars more affordable, they just made the loans longer. This is the credit trap that changed everything. In the era of that $1,400 Chevy, a car loan was a rare thing, usually lasting 12 to 24 months. You were paying for the car. Today, the average car loan in America has stretched to 72 months. Some people are even signing up for 84 or 96 months of debt just to lower the monthly payment. You aren't paying for a car anymore. You're paying for the privilege of driving, and the interest is eating your future. We replaced purchasing power with monthly payments. And because the loans got longer, the manufacturers realized they could pack the cars with more stuff, more sensors, more screens, more plastic, and more proprietary software. In 1950, you could fix your car with a wrench and a Saturday afternoon. Today, if a single microchip in your dashboard fails, your car is a 3-ton paperweight, and only a dealership with a $5,000 computer can talk to it. We traded independence for complexity. But there is a deeper, more invisible reason why the $1,500 car vanished. It's the devaluation of the very dollars in your pocket. In 1950, a dollar was a heavy, reliable unit of measurement. It represented a specific amount of gold or silver in the vault. It stayed still. But once the link between the dollar and reality was severed in 1971, the money began to thin out. The price of a new truck didn't go from $2,000 to $60,000 because the truck got 30 times better. It went up because the dollar got 30 times weaker. You are working more hours, putting in more stress, and sacrificing more of your life just to keep the same level of mobility that your grandfather took for granted. In the 1950s, a car was a tool that helped you build a life. Today, for many Americans, the car is the thing that keeps them from having a life. It is the single biggest wealth killer for the middle class. Think about the two-income trap again. In 1950, one person worked and the family had a brand new car. Today, two people work and they both have car payments that total $1,000 a month. We have better cars, sure. They are safer, they have air conditioning, they have Bluetooth, but do they give us more freedom? If you have to work 40 hours a month just to pay for the machine that takes you to work, are you really free, or are you just a part of the engine? The accidental luxury of 1950 wasn't about the chrome or the tail fins, it was about the fact that the car didn't own the man. The man owned the car. As we look back at those vintage films of shiny Chevys and Fords cruising down a brand new interstate, we aren't just looking at old cars. We are looking at a version of the American dream that was grounded in scarcity and value. The $1,500 car is gone. The 25-cent gallon of gas is a museum piece, but the lesson for us today is heavy. Money is supposed to be a way to store the value of your work, but when the system changes and the money starts to melt, you find yourself running faster and faster just to stay in the same place. Your grandfather didn't have a smartphone, but he had a paid-off car, a house, and his weekends were his own. He didn't have options, but he had stability. Perhaps the real cost of the modern car isn't the $48,000 on the sticker. The real cost is the years of your life you give away just to have a set of keys. Your bank account tells you what you can afford per month, but it will never tell you what your time is actually worth.